For years after the death of legendary drummer Neil Peart, many fans believed that Rush's story was over. Even Geddy Lee and Lifeson seemed unsure about what came next. They occasionally appeared together, but the idea of moving forward without Peart felt almost impossible. Then something unexpected happened. A German drummer named Anika Nilles entered the picture. At first, she wasn't brought in to replace Neil. Geddy and Alex simply wanted to play music again and see what felt possible. But after playing with Nilles, both musicians realized they weren't just revisiting old memories. They were discovering a new future. In fact, Geddy later recalled that after hearing her, he and Alex looked at each other and thought, "I think we have a drummer. Now what do we do?" Guitar World. When news spread that Anika Nilles had been playing with Geddy Lee and Lifeson, many fans assumed the goal was simple: recreate Rush exactly as it once was. But that wasn't what happened. Nilles approached the music with enormous respect for Neil Peart's legacy, yet she never tried to imitate him note for note. Known for her own unique style, advanced independence, and creative groove concepts, she brought a fresh energy into the room. Instead of forcing the band to relive the past, she encouraged them to react, experiment, and play in the moment. That subtle difference changed everything. For the first time in years, Geddy and Alex weren't focused on what Rush had lost. They were focused on what new musical possibilities still existed. The rehearsals began feeling less like a memorial and more like a creative exploration. And as the chemistry grew stronger, the two longtime bandmates started asking a question they had carefully avoided for years. Could there actually be life after nostalgia? The turning point wasn't a single performance. It was the atmosphere that developed whenever the three musicians played together. According to interviews, Geddy Lee and Lifeson initially gathered with Nilles simply to see how it felt. There was no grand plan, no official announcement, and no promise of a future project. Yet the sessions quickly became something neither musician expected: fun. That may sound simple, but after years of carrying the emotional weight of losing Neil Peart, rediscovering the joy of playing together was a major breakthrough. Nilles brought confidence without pressure. She wasn't asking Geddy and Alex to prove anything. She wasn't trying to recreate Rush's past glory. Instead, she focused on making music in the present. As the jams continued, the conversations changed. Suddenly, the question wasn't whether they could play together again. The question became what they might create next, and that possibility was both exciting and terrifying. One of the biggest challenges facing Geddy Lee and Lifeson was the enormous shadow cast by Rush's legacy. After more than 4 decades together, every note they played was compared to the band's classic era. That pressure could have made any new collaboration feel impossible. But Anika Nilles offered something different. Because she came from outside the Rush story, she wasn't carrying decades of expectations. Her perspective helped shift the focus away from preserving history and toward creating new experiences. Instead of asking, "How do we sound exactly like Rush?" the musicians began exploring, what happens when these three players make music together today? That distinction mattered. The more they played, the more it became clear that honoring Neil Peart didn't require staying frozen in time. In many ways, continuing to grow as musicians was a tribute to the adventurous spirit that had always defined Rush itself. And soon, fans would begin noticing signs that Geddy and Alex were becoming increasingly open to possibilities that once seemed unthinkable. As reports from rehearsals and special appearances began circulating, fans noticed something they hadn't seen in years: optimism. Geddy Lee and Lifeson appeared energized whenever they spoke about playing together again. While both musicians repeatedly emphasized that no one could ever replace Neil Peart, they also made it clear that making music was still an important part of their lives. Anika Nilles became a key part of that conversation. Her performances demonstrated that moving forward didn't have to mean erasing the past. Instead, it could mean building on everything Rush had accomplished while allowing new ideas to emerge. For many longtime fans, this was a significant shift. The discussion slowly moved away from whether Geddy and Alex should continue and toward what form that continuation might take. Yet one final challenge remained. Could the surviving members of Rush truly embrace a future that wasn't defined by nostalgia alone? The answer would reveal something profound about both the band and the drummer who helped reignite their creative spark. In the end, the biggest change wasn't just musical, it was emotional. Working with Anika Nilles helped Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson reconnect with the part of themselves that existed before legacy, pressure, and expectation took over. Instead of trying to recreate the past, they began to see music as something that could still evolve. Nilles didn't replace Neilport, no one could. What she did was help create a space where Geddy and Alex could stop treating Rush as something finished and start treating it as something that could still inspire motion, ideas, and risk. That shift mattered. It turned rehearsals into conversations again. It brought back spontaneity. And it reminded both musicians that innovation had always been at the core of Rush's identity. By the time the sessions wrapped, one truth stood out clearly. Nostalgia can preserve a legacy, but only creativity can extend it. And with that realization, Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson weren't just looking back anymore. They were finally ready to look forward.